Yes, well, the question of consumption and I guess the question of will, it's really, I guess, maybe one way to look at it is a question of ethics, and I guess a large part of the solution to that question is education. I was wondering, when you look at the education in this subject matter, are you optimistic looking at the dynamics of the climate change?
As an educator, I think the good news is that young people coming into college, when I encounter them today, are more aware than previous generations have been of the fact that they may live in a world that is limited. The fact that they may have to give things up in their lives, that's not quite hit them yet. That maybe, you know, that they can't just keep consuming as their parents have consumed. That I think we're lagging a bit behind on. So I think we have lots of models for how it can be done. My son went to a very green school in Seattle in which they had gardens, they had a compost bin, and the entire elementary school, 500 students, they had one 40-gallon trash can for the entire school that held all of the trash, and it was mostly empty. They recycled everything. All the food from the lunchroom went to farms for feeding animals. All aluminum foil was recycled, all plastics, all glass, everything was recycled. One little school in the middle of Seattle was able to do this. You know, maybe we need more models like that. It certainly can be done.
Before you mentioned that water is the main cause of global warming. Did I understand that correct?
No, that's not correct. Water is the greenhouse effect is occurring in the atmosphere right now, regardless of what we're doing to it. It's been there forever. It's the process by which the gas molecules in the atmosphere absorb radiation, and then, as Bruce described the physics of it, warm the atmosphere and consequently warm the air around us. A number of gases in the atmosphere can absorb this infrared radiation. Water vapor is one of them, carbon dioxide is one of them, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone. All these gases absorb radiation and contribute to the natural greenhouse effect. What we're changing, though, right now, what's causing global warming, is that we're increasing the concentrations of some of these gases, like carbon dioxide and methane, because of human activities. So we're not changing, so we've got all these different gases that cause the greenhouse effect, that keep the planet warm right now, but we're changing the concentrations of some of them due to human activities. Does that kind of make sense to me? It's not clear. Ask again, because I don't know if I've answered your question. Or
my question is, if you would replace all combustion engines that consuming fossil fuel by burning hydrogen, would that be better? Because you're blowing out water in the atmosphere?
I think at that point, it's the amount of water coming out would probably be, compared to the amount of water in the atmosphere, would probably be pretty small. Because if you look, water can be as much as 1% of the atmospheric composition, 0.5%. I mean, very wet, and we're talking carbon dioxide of parts per million. So it's, I think you'd have to have a lot of water in the atmosphere in vapor form. So I don't think that that would be an issue. There are some issues with chemistry, though, by putting more, and maybe Bruce can talk about this. People have looked at that, what happens if you go to a hydrogen economy, and what the impact on atmospheric chemistry and ozone is. But I don't know the answer. I don't know where that is.
Well, I do. So, you brought up some interesting points, and I want to mention about the hydrogen economy. It's kind of when George Bush first came in, sometime George W. Bush came in, hydrogen economy was a big thing. You don't hear too much about hydrogen economy now, because I think people, the technology, where, as Marty had mentioned, is kind of waning a little bit on that. The second thing is that the hydrogen fuel is, as a source of fuel, isn't a renewable energy source. It's basically a battery. Because what you need to do is how a hydrogen fuel cell works is it's a hydrogen as a fuel and it uses oxygen to do the combustion, but you've got to produce the hydrogen. So you really still get back to a sustainable way of producing the hydrogen for the fuel cell. And I think this has been a bit of a stumbling block because it's not it's a renewable energy source, but you need to put energy into it to get energy out. It's a storage system. And so I think the interest has kind of waned on that a little bit. I think our technology has to do a lot better. It does burn clean, absolutely, but you've got to produce the hydrogen. And an interesting thing I just want to add with what Marty said about water vapor. Water vapor, yes, it's the most ubiquitous gas species, other gas species other than in the atmosphere, the hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere. Water vapor is the next most ubiquitous thing. But water vapor doesn't only heat the atmosphere, it also cools the atmosphere, i.e. clouds. So water vapor is kind of a shifty character because it's really got a lot of different faces, that it can be a greenhouse gas, but can also, white fluffy clouds can reflect ultraviolet radiation so that it never reaches the surface to produce the infrared radiation that could potentially be involved in global warming scenarios. So water's definitely very hard to get a handle on.